Imagine you open the news channel and the breaking news is Flight BA0016 from Sydney arrived in Singapore Changi Airport without any problems. And this is the second headline of the day. Some 500,000 children are reported to have reached their homes back after finishing the school. What? It will be like you going to latest edition of Fast and Furious and discover in this movie there are none of the lead actors and all they have made is a documentary about how to drive safe and follow traffic rules. My guess is you won't be interested, will you? Hi, this is Vicky here from booktook, where I introduce you to the finest books and transformational ideas from world-class thinkers, experts and achievers. In one short video, you get to learn what others may take months, years or even a lifetime. This video is part of Smart Thinking series, where I introduce you to the thinking tools which will help you to make good decisions, avoid bad ones and understand the world better so that you can start thinking with smart thinking. Think about the world we are living in right now. What comes to mind? Do you think we are living in an increasingly hostile world? A world which is getting worse place to live? War, violence, natural disasters, man-made disasters, corruption. Things are bad and it feels like they are getting worse, right? The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and the number of poor just keeps increasing, and we will soon run out of resources unless we do something drastic. At least that's the picture most of us see in the media and carry around in our heads, and it's stressful. You are nodding your head thinking it indeed is getting worse each passing day. It's time to pause right there, because the world is nothing you imagine it to be. What if I tell you today the world is better off than it was just a generation or two ago? But let's first have a glimpse of what has been happening in the history. Human sacrifice, cannibalism, infanticide, slavery, burning, torture, public hangings, dead bondage, global pandemics, world war. It only took one stallion to wipe out 20 million people in Soviet Union. Most of the world was under slavery till middle of the last century. No freedom of expression, right to equality, right to live as you please. But when was the last time you witnessed any of these things happening around you? The world not so long ago was very unpredictable. How do you compare yourself from 20 years? Do you feel any noticeable change in your circumstances? Village I was born in had just one TV. From getting my own TV and watching one channel, we now have infinite channels. Yes, that's YouTube. From few people in my village finishing basic education to almost everybody completing higher education now. From women with one default option of being a housewife to everyone now working and expressing their creativity one way or the other. Again, how much do you understand the world? In 2017, nearly 12,000 people in 14 countries were asked to answer a set of questions about our current state of the world. They scored on average just 2 correct answers out of the first 12. A stunning 15% scored 0. And the questions were not asked from just random people on the street. Questions were asked to people from all walks of life, from teachers to eminent scientists, from investment bankers to journalists, from business leaders to Nobel laureates. It's not the question of intelligence. Everyone seems to get the world devastatingly wrong. Epidemiologist Hans Rosling, who has researched this extensively and also written the book Factfullness, says if every question I wrote the alternatives on bananas and asked chimpanzees in the zoo to pick the right answers just by the fact of random probability of one right answer out of 3 options, chimps would have done better than our well-read news-watching respondents. The reason? The respondents consistently picked answers that were too pessimistic. Here are some facts about our world that you might not know. Poverty. Over the past 20 years, the proportion of global population living in extreme poverty has halved. This is absolutely revolutionary. It is one of the most important changes that has happened in the world in our lifetimes. Health. Almost all children are vaccinated in the world today. This is amazing. It means that almost all human beings alive today have some access to basic modern healthcare. Crippling diseases like smallpox and polio are mentioned in past tense. Life itself. A century and a half ago, the human lifespan was just 30 years. Today it is 72 and it shows no sign of leveling off. War, the most destructive human activity, war between powerful nations, is out of date. Developed countries have not fought a war for 70 years. Civil wars continue to exist, but they are less destructive than interstate wars, and there are fewer of them. Globally, the annual death rate from wars has been in bumpy decline from 300 per 100,000 during World War II to 0.2% in recent years. Even the horrific civil war in Syria has only buzzed the numbers back to where they were in 2000. Freedom. Despite backsliding in this or that country, the global democracy index is at an all-time high. More than 60% of the world's population now lives in open societies, the highest percentage ever. Knowledge. In 1820, 17% of the people had basic education. Today, 82% of the people do, and the percentage is rapidly heading to 100. Gender equality. Global data shows that women are getting better educated, marrying later, earning more, and are in more positions of power and influence. Truth is, every year the average person on the planet is growing wealthier, healthier, happier, cleverer, cleaner, kinder, freer, safer, and peaceful, and more equal. Does this mean we have solved every problem of the world? Absolutely not, and there is a long way to go. But why is so much progress not known to people in general? How can so many people be so wrong about so much? How is it even possible that the majority of people score worse than chimpanzees, worse than random? What is happening here? Here's the funny thing, most improvements are gradual, so they don't make news. Bad news tends to come suddenly. Car crashes make the news, decreasing child mortality doesn't. In 2016, a total of 40 million commercial passenger flights landed safely at their destinations. Only 10 ended in fatal accidents. Of course, those were the ones the journalists wrote about. 0.00025% of the total safe flights are not newsworthy. We are subjected to never-ending cascades of negative news from across the world. War, famine, natural disasters, political mistakes, corruption, budget cuts, diseases, mass layoffs, acts of terror. Is media to blame entirely? Sure, the media plays a role, but we must not make them into the ultimate villain, because there is more to the story. Why does it happen? Look at these two horizontal lines. Which line is longest? You might have seen this before. The line on the bottom looks longer than the line on the top. You know it isn't, but even if you already know, even if you measure the lines yourself and confirm that they are the same, you keep seeing them as different lengths. Human mind is vulnerable to illusions, biases, and fallacies. Several of these mental bugs fool us into believing that world is in decline or in existential danger, and always has been. That's why we fear shark attacks and plane hijackings, when what we should fear is falling down the stairs and texting while driving. This is because illusions don't happen in our eyes, they happen in our brains. What to do about it? Knowing that most people are deluded means you don't need to be embarrassed. Instead, you can be curious. How does the illusion work? The cure for cognitive fallacies is data and critical thinking. What can you do? Adopt fact-based worldview. Factfullness, like a healthy diet and regular exercise, can and should become part of your daily life. You will make better decisions, stay alert to real dangers and possibilities, and avoid being constantly stressed about the wrong things. Some critical thinking rules will help. World is really operating in extremes, like having only two classes of people, rich and poor. In reality, vast majority is neither rich nor poor, but somewhere in the middle. Refrain from making people good or bad. Truth is, everyone can be good or bad depending on a lot of factors and the incentives driving them. Remember, bad news is much more likely to reach us than good news. Good news is almost never reported, so news is almost always bad. When you see bad news, ask whether equally positive news would have reached you. When you are afraid, you see the world differently. Make as few decisions as possible until the panic has subsided. Compare. Numbers look big in isolation. Single numbers on their own are misleading and should make you suspicious. Always look for comparisons. Recognize that a single perspective limits our imagination, and it is always better to look at problems from many angles and get a more accurate understanding and find practical solutions. Remember, step by step, year by year, the world is improving, not on every single measure, every single year, but as a rule. Though the world faces huge challenges, we have also made tremendous progress, and this is the fact-based worldview. This was it for this video. Hope you found this useful. Let me know in the comments if you have any good news to share about how your world has changed for better. If you like this smart thinking tool of Factfullness, do share with at least one more friend who will benefit from the same, or dislike and share your feedback. I plan to share a lot of practical thinking tools to help you become a smart thinker. So do subscribe and press that bell icon to get these updates regularly. Till then, have fun and be limitless.